Oh, did you? Yes. All right. It's just about zero. That is right. Okay. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6 p.m., so I will call the regular meeting of the Board of Education for January to order. Would you all join me in the pledge? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, if we could have the secretary take the roll, please.
Christopher Abel.
Here.
Vic Hansen.
Here.
Matthew Phipps.
Present.
Keith Shaw.
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Carrie Trask.
Here.
Tony Bostelica.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have public input. And I'll begin by once more reminding everyone that public comment at these meetings is not an appropriate place for electioneering. I was truly grateful for the restraint shown last month, and I thank you. Public comment at MPSD board meetings is meant to provide an opportunity to publicly petition your board to consider or address matters over which the board exercises oversight or authority. Candidates are, of course, quite welcome to address the board. They are free to speak like anyone else on matters of board oversight. They may also, appropriately, include the fact of their candidacy when giving a name and address. As I asked last time, please save websites and campaign rhetoric for other venues. Again, I thank you. And now I will go to the requests for public input that we have received. First is Jake Prestow? Houston. Thank you. I apologize.
Okay. Jacob Pusto, 1423 North 3rd Street. I'm going to try to cut this short so I have somewhere to be. I have 3 notes for any current board member or anyone running this current election, not including myself, I'm not running. First, there is no gay or trans propaganda. There is no attempt to convert or groom students into the queer community. Being a kid is already tough enough. They don't need adults vilifying their mere existence, okay? Look at the Facebook posts of 2 select board members announcing their plans to not seek re-election. Both Spalding and Plastilica have both warned about these rumored gay agendas. We wouldn't say the same about students of color, female students, students of other faiths, disabled students, or, like myself, students with special needs. So I must ask, what's the difference? Plastilica specifically posted a picture of a teacher in the district with a pride flag on her shoes, or what he called the trans flag. For context, that's like looking at the American flag and calling it the flag of Ohio. What's shown is not just a clear ignorance or lack of ability to do Google research, but also a tendency towards fanaticism rather than pragmatism. If someone honestly believes these claims of propaganda or agendas and believes they hold greater precedence than any sound policies on education, then they have no right being on the board. 2, please do not ally yourselves with Moms for Liberty. The Southern Poverty Law Center has described the entire organization as a hate group. They have been called such for repeatedly demonizing the queer community and seeking anti-queer legislation. They have even targeted teachers and students, repeatedly calling teachers pedophiles or groomers, specifically asking one teacher, I won't name who, how long they have been, quote, molesting babies. They've even targeted certain children who have defended the teacher with pride flag on her shoe by posting on their Facebook page with the profile pics of these students with the names attached, calling them leftist bullies. This is inappropriate and inexcusable to target children. And I cannot imagine what mind space you have to be to do such a thing. If someone allies themselves with this hate group and harasses both staff and students, or if they work with the hate group, then they have no right being on the board. Third, please know why teachers bother being inclusive, because let's be real. The city of Manitowoc can be pretty hateful sometimes. I've heard many times the stories of queer people in the community who have suffered acts of hate. I've even heard one gay couple tell me that a driver-by called them the F slur simply for holding hands walking down the street. This is to say nothing about the sexism, racism, and anti-Semitism I've heard and witnessed to in this midtown. When I was in the pit for the orchestra for Peter Quince's The Prom, it was a running joke that we would change the lyric to from note to self, don't be gay in Indiana, to note to self, don't be gay in Manitowoc. A teacher's goal is to promote a safe and accepting learning environment, as is the best for not just a student's learning, but their mental health. If that means accepting some students, then what's the harm? If someone can't be bothered to know why a teacher would not want to discriminate against students, let alone actually be bothered to talk to them, then they have no right being on the board. In short, I am sick and tired of having to listen to people who are only in favor of certain civil rights. It doesn't matter who they are, where they come from, or what they're going through. Every child deserves to feel safe and accepted. Every child. And if some don't or can't believe that, they have no right being on the board. P.S. I read that book that was recommended last meeting, America's Cultural Revolution. If you have not read it, please don't. It's trash. I've read it, gone through it. It's incredibly one-sided and horribly miscues history to such a degrading degree. Thank you.
Next, we have Jeff Bell.
Hi, Jeff Bell, 529 West Lawn Boulevard. I'm not here to speak on Title IX, SFA, the Superintendent Revolving Door, Ally, Moms for Liberty, or the MPSD's go-to word, referendum, such as operating, spending, borrowing, capital, or whatever word you want to put in front of it next. What I would like to speak on is something I know a little bit more about. Your Christmas card that I received in the mail a few days before Christmas spreading goodwill and Christmas cheer. My tax bill. Manitowoc is an aging community, as you know, from your declining enrollment. And with an aging community comes more Social Security recipients. Did you know the average Social Security recipient received a $49 increase, the average, from a 2.5% COLA increase? Then from that, they backed out $10 for Medicare. So of that $39 increase that they got, they're to use it towards their increased tax bill from the Manitowoc Treasurer, which 71% of mine came from this building. This is not my first rodeo speaking here in the public forum. The first time I spoke was after the referendum was passed. I informed the then superintendent that he did not win the lottery. Therefore, not to spend like a drunken soldier, a drunken sailor. Within the hour, the sailor went on a binge. Within the hour, the sailor went on a binge as the school board passed an across the board wage increase of plus 4%. And the sailor, according to this tax bill, hasn't stopped since. Mr. Interim Superintendent, your advisory committee, which coincidentally I applied through a direct email to you, is a step in the right direction. Individuals who are open-minded, think out of the box, proactive, and not afraid of hard, difficult decisions that may not be popular need to be on this board, or need to be on this committee. Nothing is off the board, such as school closings, boundary reassessments, the status of this building, student-teacher ratios, and elimination of positions throughout MPSD. In a little closing, since this is school, part of the school, I'd like to do a little fill in the blank for you. In blank, a citizen task force was convened to provide various scenarios to address significant issues the district is facing, such as aging facilities, declining enrollment, upcoming deficits. If you answered January of 2025 when this was put together, you're correct for MPSD. But what I was looking for somebody who was a little more proactive, thinking out of the box, and greater concern for the taxpayer. The answer I was looking for was January 2023. Green Bay School District did that 2 years before you even started thinking about it here. You got to ask yourself why. The taxpayers more vocal in Green Bay? I hope not. The school board more concerned about taxpayers in Green Bay? I hope not. School board more proactive in Green Bay? I hope not. Different or unique situation in Green Bay? Some issues, maybe on a larger content. Or is politics in a non-partisan body less of a factor in Green Bay than in Manitowoc? I'll let you answer that one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Barbara Post.
Barbara Post, 825 Wilson Street, Manitowoc. And just before I came in here, I thought prepping the future by digesting the past. That's what everybody is doing. A strong integrated grade level team approach is necessary for all student achievement, where everyone has input and are therefore accountable. It goes from a me to a we mentality. The district must take a much closer look at true inclusion as an everyday formatted practice. It seems that you followed some sort of plan, except not consistent, solid, true inclusion for all students. True inclusion means all staff working together with a common goal for student achievement. That means regular ed, special ed, reading, EL, speech, the whole gamut in the building. A designated grade-defined regular ed classrooms with common core modifications done for each student to meet the state mandated standards. This would be a shared team responsibility and ensures that all students will have a free, open public education. What does public education mean to myself? People universally united because literacy learning is critical. And public schools champion diversity across the board. I don't come here as a politician, I come here as an ex-educator. All students are unique, all with different skill sets, which need to be considered and evaluated as how or what they will be taught. And confidentiality is a must if you're on this team. Elementary would be a great place to implement this practice. It was started when I was in there, but it was kind of willy-nilly. You'd start, and I say, especially at K-3, because I worked in an integrated classroom for, I want to say, it was 12 years, and we had people from all across the board. We had handicapped, we had autistic, it was the start of it all. All students need and should know the basics. With team evaluation and team modifications, these basics will be covered. Are you going to train the brain or are you going to drain the brain? When I say train the brain, you're using manipulatives, and when I say drain brain, that's screen time. You need to know the basics before you can actually, and so many people are on these screens all the time. And they're becoming known that that's draining the brain, sorry.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to get up here all the time. This collaborative team practice model keeps them in their designated home school unless they choose differently. It guarantees a safe, same environment for learning and a continuum for the students and builds a firm foundation on which to expand. The time is now. You have curriculum and behavior plan changes already in progress. These students cannot wait. They only have so many years of formal teaching to empower themselves with the information through education that they need and want. Their livelihood and life depends on it. Everyone needs to work together in order for this to be accomplished. Dig deep, put aside your differences, stop the competition and comparisons, collaborate, and establish the standards and protocols these students deserve and will get accomplished. As new mandates, protocols are established, be sure to have training and follow up checkup dates to know that everyone understands and are working as a team with the same progress goals. Can this be done? Absolutely. When everyone pulls together, shows a caring, optimistic, and positive attitude. The can-do spirit of a problem-solving educator is amplified when it's seen and felt by the students as they believe and achieve these varied tasks. Will it be easy? No, but stay the course and believe that can happen. I've been there. I don't know how many times I've been up here as a community member. I know that these kids could achieve. I never saw these kids as bad kids. And you should be working as a team. Everybody should have a say and everybody should be able to achieve something. Thank you.
Thank you. And Braden Meyer.
Hello, I'm Brandon Meyer. It is important to keep the parents and community members of our school district engaged. One great way to do this would be for our school district to start a program to allow parents and community members to volunteer in the classroom. Volunteering in the classroom is a great way for parents to invest in their children's education, grandparents as well. This will provide parents with an opportunity to get to know their children's teachers more. Being in the classroom, parents would experience the atmosphere, which will provide them with a better understanding of any issues their child may be facing and how to solve them. Volunteers can help in places that suit their skills or provide skills not offered by others. If they are bilingual, they could volunteer in a foreign language class. If they are knowledgeable on the technical side, they could volunteer in a computer skills class. There are a variety of classes that volunteers would fit in. Outside of classes, people could volunteer to assist student clubs, extracurricular activities, and at events. If someone is looking toward a career in education, volunteering in the classroom would be a great experience for that person. Someone who volunteers in the classroom today could be a future educator for our district. A range of community members volunteering would allow for valuable feedback. They could work with teachers and offer solutions to classroom problems. These suggestions and solutions could be brought to the board if it is something that could be implemented district-wide. This could improve our district in ways the school board and employees may not have thought of. Volunteers will provide students, teachers, and our district as a whole with extra support. For the parents who would not be able to volunteer during the day, they should be asking their kids what they learned in school every day they come home. Those I've expressed are a few reasons as to why our district should establish a program to allow parents and community members to volunteer in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. That exhausts the requests. Anybody else like to address the board? Going once, going twice. Okay, then we will close public input. Thank you all. And we will move on to the consent agenda. As you can see, the consent agenda has a number of things on there. It does, I would point out, include the monthly financial report and payment of vouchers that because of no December meeting came straight to the board. We simply put it on there for efficiency since there's another one that the finance committee will be looking at on Thursday. So we can certainly pull that off and refer it if you want. But I just wanted to explain to you why it's under the consent agenda, save the time of the finance committee looking at 2 months worth Many hands makes light work. So now I'd be looking for any request to pull anything from the consent agenda. Nobody? All right, so the consent agenda as presented, I would be looking for a motion to accept or approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion from Mr. Spalding, a second from Mr. Vaselica. Thank you both. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, that is unanimously approved, and we will move on to our student representatives report.
Yes, so semester's wrapping up soon. So Lincoln has finals week next week. And we're doing it a little different this year. Before we did standards, they used to have like a weird schedule, and then we didn't really have finals week the past couple of years. But we're kind of bringing that back. So on the 22nd and the 23rd is when teachers are supposed to give out like final tests or the due date for final projects. And then our win period, that's usually between our first and second hour, will be at the end of the day and is meant for students with incompletes in their classes to work on any work that they need to get a passing grade, so that this encourages more students to pass all of their classes. But because next week is finals week, we're not going to have our school board committee meeting with board members. So do not go to school next Tuesday, please. But then we will meet again on February 18th. And then just a little update on our winter sports. Gymnastics just won their home duel last night. Wrestling's MJ Newman hit her 100th win, and the rest of the team took home multiple podium places at their last meet. The dance team competes later this month at regionals to qualify for state. Hockey took home their latest win last week with 5-1. Girls and boys basketball, as well as boys swim, are also on a roll, and all of our student athletes are working hard. There will be a teddy bear toss at the boys basketball game on January 24th, if anyone would like to come support the team and this cause. And then students are just working hard to finish semester with passing grades, and yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for our student representative? What does the teddy bear toss support when you say we come and support it?
So FCCLA runs the teddy bear toss, and I'm not in FCCLA, but I'm pretty sure they donate it to kids in need.
Okay.
But I'm not in FCCLA, so don't directly quote, but I'm pretty sure that's what it goes.
Problem. We'll take the problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, and now we turn to the report of the superintendent.
Thanks. We're going to start with Mr. Mishler for his included a budget timeline for you to take a look at. He's here to just briefly present that to you and answer any questions you might have.
And in the booklets, part of board books, is a booklet. And no action needs to be required on this. I want to start off with, the beginning part, explain to staff the do's and don'ts. Some of it, do this, do that, do this. And some of the don'ts are, for example, one easy one is gift cards, not allowed, they're taxable, things like that. So we tell them do's and don'ts. And then we start breaking it down by who's responsible for what. A good example is a director of curriculum, Heidi Sorota's assessment that list goes down based on what the responsibility is of the manager and whose budget responsibility is. In the middle of the pack is the actual timeline. And some of the key dates, really January through March is when we're doing staff planning. How many increase or decrease in staffing, June, first draft of the budget, and October approving the budget. So it's started already. We've been talking about, we'll meet about staff next week, Thursday, we're gonna meet on staff. Last 3 pages is the required DPI expenditure coding. That's what's in there. So in essence, all the people have to follow the proper coding in that. So just a short summary about what a budget book is and the timeline in there. Is there any questions about it?
I just want to say I really appreciated your work on this. It made it so clear, and you know, I've been on the board for a while, and budget is the most confusing thing to me. And it's good to see how, you know, how you get there. and get there on time. I think we've had some troubles with that, but it just really clarifies the process really well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I too
Thank you.
compliment, I spoke with Ken earlier, the 6 years prior to this, I remember receiving documents like this, but never this well explained. And I mean, it lays it right out there, what we have to do, when we have to do it, who's responsible for what, the function items, where they need to go. Outstanding, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, the next one is my report. I submitted a written report to all of you. I'll try to catch some of the highlights here. It's Joyful January in the Manitowoc Public School District. And I think if you remember back to the Attitude of Gratitude in November, every other month we're trying to do a theme that sort of celebrates our district, reminds us of some things, and creates a sense of community. With Joyful January, we're really going after sort of getting a mid-year motive. I mean, we all can tell by today's weather that we certainly need a boost at this time of year. And we want to also do it to model positivity for our students, combat seasonal stress, reaffirm our commitment to our students, strengthen team morale, as well as, frankly, make January count. And it's, typically in the course of a school year, there's ups and downs. And, this time of year with living in the great state of Wisconsin can be tough. So we're really doing this to try to remind everybody of their why. A lot of times, in the course of a school year, you lose sight of those. You might be inspired to start the school year in September and remembering why you're here, but it's a good reminder to serve also right now for everyone. The next thing would be a facilities update. We have before you tonight a resolution that's been prepared that seeks the public approval to borrow $25 million to address critical maintenance needs across the district. That comes with the commitment, as you requested, that we make sure that we aren't going to increase the tax levy as a result of it. So we are working really hard. As I've shared with you in prior months, we have a plan to sort of get our staffing ratios back in order. There's a number of other things we're doing, and Ken is working on to sort of project out what that will look like. But we're committed to that. And just so you know, that it doesn't say that anywhere in the resolution, but our commitment is to keep the tax levy as flat as possible here moving forward over the next couple of years. Long-range planning. Our executive team has been meeting and reviewing and interviewing firms that specialize in facilities and referendum planning in school districts. At our upcoming Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, we will hear from Mr. Michael Hacker of Cadence Consulting, who will present a brief overview of his services. Mr. Schwarz and I will also provide you with a joint recommendation that engages Cadence in an as-need basis to support our long-term facilities efforts. Our facility advisory committees are being formed, and the staff one has already been formed. I included the names of the folks who volunteered to serve on that committee. We had our first meeting last week, and it went very well, sort of an orientation and a mission. I wanted to make sure they were in on this. So I did give them an out at the end and said, if you don't want to commit to the 80-90% attendance on this, it's going to be critical you're here. I gave them an out, and the good news is no one left me. So we have our full slate of folks that are going to help us out. In addition, on Friday, the deadline closed for seeking community members and volunteers for our community facility advisory committee. We had 43 individuals who signed up to volunteer to be part of that process. We are going to have everyone come in and do a similar orientation, attempt to get some levels of commitment, and then figure out, is this something that we can manage in a little bit larger of a team, or if it's something that we may need to split into two and do a little bit smaller groups. But the bottom line is we're including everyone who's interested in becoming part of that process. Keeping you updated on open enrollment. I had mentioned to you before that we're going to do some things to try to find out, kind of where families are in terms of their open enrollment choices. So what we have already is, what they'll get is a letter from me that basically asks them, so we're going to send these out to people who choose to come to our district to open enroll in, as well as open enroll out. And then there'll be a letter in there from me requesting their feedback, thoughts and insights as to why they're choosing another district in that case, or as to why they're choosing us in that other case. There will be a QR code that'll be on the letter that will link them to a survey that we're asking them to fill out to give us the feedback, as well as we'll include, and I put out a copy for you. We really recently published a flyer that we're going to be using and sending out that highlights the many different opportunities that we have in our district that we want to make sure that people are learning about. And really points of pride, I would say, on that particular document. In addition, we are also forming a district-wide public relations committee that will be made up of staff members throughout the district. I also included for you in this report a list of those folks who volunteered for that team. We'll be meeting also on a monthly basis with the express intent of trying to find ways for us to share all of the things that we're doing with kids to help them learn and grow, to become effective communicators, creative problem solvers, and engaged community members for our local area. Also, you'll find of note, and I won't get too much into this, I did visit Lakeshore College and did a tour with Dr. Carlson, the president of Lakeshore College. We discussed what partnerships we've had in the past, as well as the desire to continue our relationship, but also strengthen it, and potentially offers for some different opportunities for our kids in the coming years. A reminder to all those tuning in, if you're a sophomore at Lincoln High School, you have some choices to make. There are some programming. We have the YA program, which is opening up its time to think about joining in. We have a very robust YA program at Lincoln High School. For those of you who don't know, we actually run Be My Guest this week we had a student from Seehafer, as well as Bonnie Przeniak, our YA coordinator. But the time is now to start thinking about what you might want to do. In addition, those sophomores are faced with the choice of potentially going at college with our Rising Phoenix program. There'll be 30 spots available for next year's juniors in that program. I would also like to remind folks that whether you're selected to be part of that 30 or not, we still offer a private pay way for you to also do Rising Phoenix, where you're able to essentially take advantage of the discounts that the district gets for the tuition, which eventually saves you and your families about $12,000. And you earn your associate degree alongside your high school diploma. And we want to promote that as an opportunity because, again, on the flyer, as it boasts, Manitowoc Public School Districts and our high schools, nearly half of our students leave high school with some type of college credit. That's huge. We rank very highly in that area throughout our region and for sure in our county. So we're also very proud of that. And please remember, we have been nominated to compete for Business of the Year with the Chamber of Commerce, Awards of Distinction. If you're interested in attending that event, it's on February 13th. If you could please let Lori know by the January 23rd, we want to have all of our reservations set by then. And I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
I don't know. Explain the Cadence Consulting. Are they in lieu of the CISA people? Mm-hmm. We're not wandering through CISA on that.
No. So
Okay.
The CISA 10 arrangement that we have is they're still on the hook for helping us with our roofing project at Lincoln.
Okay.
And that was something that we contracted with them.
Okay.
They're not involved with really anything else other than staying abreast of where we're at with moving forward with our process.
So who's Cadence?
Cadence is a owner's rep type of service who has worked in area districts, Mishicot and Two Rivers, to help them with their pre-referendum.
Are they local?
Pretty local, yeah.
Wisconsin?
Oh, yeah, for
Northeast?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the goal for Thursday would be, and again, we met with Hoffman, we met with
Oh, did you?
Nexus.
Okay.
We met with, well, obviously we meet with CISA and we know CISA 10 and know their work. And also Cadence. And, you know, there's pros and cons of who you choose.
Yeah,
For example,
sure.
a Hoffman is more of a designer builder. So if you're looking at like building a school, you may want to have a designer builder helping you on that process. In our particular case, where we have projects spread all throughout the district, we would want to look at an owner's rep as opposed to that.
Okay.
And again, you'll see our Mr. Schwartz and I have a joint recommendation. The other thing that's an advantage with Cadence is you use them when you need them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be signing off on a percentage, for example, of any type of, for example, if the board affirmatively chooses to go for the $25 million borrowing referendum as proposed on the agenda tonight, some of the companies you'd sign up with would take a percentage of that to do their services. And this is not like that at all. So you'll be able to see in the board book for Thursday's Finance and Facilities Committee meeting what the recommendation looks like, as well as what that structure of that contract would look like. And then we can, certainly we'll be going through all that at the committee level.
And the second thing was the collaboration with Lakeshore College. I remember from, years ago, teaching students that came in on, I forget what they called it at that time, but, it was this opportunity to get college credit, and they'd come to the center and take classes. And that was covered either by state money or school district money. Which was?
Yeah, so the early college credit program is essentially state mandated program.
Okay.
So we are obligated to provide students with up to 18 credits during their high school time if they meet the eligibility requirements of those.
Okay.
So for example, you wouldn't be able to just go say, hey, I want to take U.S. history at the center because we have U.S. history. These are courses that you'd want to take that the high school itself doesn't offer. And so there are certain eligibility and time requirements that have to be met. But if they are, then yes, the district is on the hook for flipping that bill.
Okay.
Up to the 18 credits.
Does that program at all cover Lakeshore College?
Yeah, it really covers any.
Oh, it does, okay. So there is a possibility of moving in that direction to get a kind of a rising phoenix on the local level without the phoenix, I guess.
Yeah, and one of the areas that Lakeshore really has is, they really, if you take a look at their stuff, they have all state of the art, everything.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, you walk into the dungeon at Lincoln, into the tech ed area, and you go, okay. And then you go there and you say, wow, they got robots, so like there are things that can really benefit our kids by being exposed to newer type of equipment that's really in the fields that they may be using instead of the antiquated things that we have in our particular program. Not that those aren't good to learn on, and get experience with. But boy, it just doesn't hold a candle to what they have out there in terms of what our kids can get exposed to.
Yeah, it's playing in the majors.
Yeah.
So the last question I have is on Joyful January. Why didn't you consider having a happy hour?
No comment.
Thank you. Just have to be warm on the inside.
That's right.
Anything else for the superintendent? Yes.
I noticed this on our desk.
Yeah.
Is this part of what you're sending out to people?
Yes.
Is that what you were referring to earlier?
Yeah, that'll be included, Tony, in the mailer that they get. It'll be letter from me, QR code for the survey and that.
Looks good.
Yeah, thank you. Oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
How many community-based advisory committee members are you looking to try to have? All 43?
Yes.
Okay. Wanted to know.
Yep.
We'll be including everyone.
Okay, next we have the director.
Oh, yeah, the directors, yeah.
You want to do it?
The directors have submitted a report, and
Yeah.
if you have questions, they're available to take them.
question. Can you guys speak to that Act 20 update, the literacy program and the gaps that you guys referred to in there, like what you guys see right now?
Yeah, so far, the diagnostic assessments are still happening. Right now, we have the screening information. The screening information is more of a big picture glimpse at the kids. The diagnostic assessments, so every one of the students that qualifies based on that screener now has to have multiple diagnostic assessments. So that's going to take a good chunk of January. One of the things that we know already is, as an example, like we have that 67% of our kindergartners will need a personal reading plan or intervention. And we noticed when we looked at the data that a big area of need was letter recognition. And so in conversation with the reading teachers and principals, we know that our current curriculum doesn't teach letter recognition until the spring. And it is an expectation for that to be something that they would know sooner than that. So that's an area that we know we'll need to add, take some time out of our current curriculum and add in some additional learning for kids. So that's just one example that we were able to identify really quickly from the screener. Once we have all of the diagnostics done for all of our K-3 students, we're going to bring the reading teachers together to really dig into those that diagnostic results, and that will also tell us if there are additional holes, which I expect there to be some more based on the amount of kids that we have, but I can't tell you what those are yet.
Could I just follow up with, I hope, an easy question? Do we have a percentage of kindergarten students that have been to pre-K? Do we know what that is?
I don't know it off the top of, I don't have the exact number, but I will tell you that it's a large number of our students do go to 4K.
Okay, thank you.
There was a pretty big change in our curriculum, even with, when we think about our 4K students. They were working on teaching students letters and letter sounds in 4K prior to the introduction of SFA. SFA is very much an oral language program. They talk about that being a strong, giving kids a strong foundation for kindergarten and first grade. And so that was a really big change for them to go from teaching those letters and letter sounds in kindergarten or 4K to prepare them for kindergarten. So I guess we're not surprised that that hole exists. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to ask about summer school. I know that I heard from people who were disappointed in last year's summer school, and I'd like to know what sorts of things you're doing to, bring it back to life.
I think our summer school was pretty robust prior to last year. And last year, there was a big change in our summer school. We took away a lot of the enrichment opportunities, and we had a very more traditional summer school that looked like regular school year school in some ways. So students were in an SFA block, and then they were in a math block. And so, for example, if you had gone to summer school at Riverview the summer before that, you would have gone to STEAM Academy, where you would have had hands-on learning opportunities around themes in science, technology, and engineering, and math. And we also had a reading block. And so we had a pretty robust summer school, I used that word twice now, at Riverview. And I would say that the enrollment at Riverview dropped because students were coming for a fun learning opportunity. And so our goal for this year is to bring that back. And so we're having each school work with their staff that want to teach summer school to come up with an engaging, hands-on, kind of theme-based summer school that doesn't have to be STEAM, but that would be something that would get our students excited to be at summer school, definitely learning, but the joy of learning and the fun and investigation and problem solving and hands-on opportunities. So not just bringing that back to maybe where it was before, but hopefully even making it better.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, personnel, we have 3 items tonight.
Oh, I thought you.
Are we done with the director's report?
That wasn't for the director.
I had no.
Okay, great.
If I could just, I would also be, and I want to share this with the board, I would be remiss to say how grateful I am for the director team. I know you know that the structure of this year is put extra on people. And from top to bottom, they're killing it and they're doing great work. And I just really appreciate it. So thanks, team.
Now on to new business, and we start with a report from the Chair of Personnel, Mr. Hanson.
Mr. Dietrich, athletic director at Lincoln, had an idea and talked to some people. And one of the things we've lost in our elementary schools over the last 5 years is athletic programs. Not just athletic programs to help middle school and high school athletic programs, but athletic programs to get kids out doing things, to get them up and running around instead of being on these things. And so they would like to start a program at the elementary school. First year it would be flag football, boys and girls soccer, volleyball, boys and girls basketball. And the program would be paid for by grant money that we can use for this. As the program is going, we would do some evaluation, possibly then expand it to learning after-school activities like wrestling, if a kid might be interested in that, or tennis. Speaking with some of the coaches at Lincoln, there are tennis programs they have that could be used to introduce that sport to young kids. Swimmers also have something that could take the kids up to Lincoln on Saturdays and do that. So it's a program that the committee felt was important, and since we're able to use grant money, and if we don't spend it, it's going back and somebody else will spend it. It'd be a good thing to try to get going. The hope would be we could have some coaches and then have some high school kids come in under the supervision of those coaches and work with kids. So I think it's a plus all around, and as I said, the most important thing is it would get our kids up, running around, doing things, and being physically active. So we move that. I would move that. If I can get a second, I'd appreciate that.
So you're moving?
I'm moving.
Second. And we have a second to approve it. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious, do the schools play each other then, or how would that work?
That is a possibility if things would work. The basketball team from Jackson would go and play the basketball team from.
That's the vision.
Jefferson. Yeah.
And I noticed they have like football in the spring, and which seems like an unusual.
They do it purposely out of season so that maybe the coaches and the kids could be involved. So for example, if we have if we had the football in the fall, those coaches and kids wouldn't really be available to help. But if we do it in the spring, they can be involved, which we're really hoping to do. We'd like to create some positive interactions with our older kids who could get a chance to work with some of our younger kids, and again, get them to look up to, they look up to the older kids, and, if they see them helping, that's a message for them someday that they can give back and help too.
Stan put a lot of effort into putting it together and doing those times often a little bit like that to make sure that we have the staffing and the people to help out and things like that. So yeah, that's why it is a little bit different.
We did flag football a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it was done in the fall. And even though the numbers were good, they would wane after a while, but also the coaches, it started getting very busy for them because they were doing most of the work with some of the players. But it was always Saturday morning, it was Friday night after a game, and our homecoming, there were problems. So they went to flag football in the spring and then do one of the other sports in the fall.
It's a great opportunity too. I know in the past, kids used it for a community service project. They would go, and that's a nice way to build the rapport with the younger athletes, get that community service in. It's kind of a nice mentor-mentee kind of way into the high school. So and it works quite well.
Yeah, I think
for the community service hours.
Any more? Okay,
I got a quick one. Are those costs just like the startup costs then for the first year, or would that be like annual costs or?
Equipment costs are the startup,
Okay.
which again, we'll budget for out of the grant. And then, we can also do the coaches' salaries out of there as well.
So will we have to get that every year then, or would that have to?
Yeah, it can be redone every year. We just the budget for it within the grant.
It's not really a grant. It's a allocated dollar amount per pupil who, that the state is awarding districts for mental well-being for students. So we met with DPI and this fits in perfectly because of school connectedness and engagement opportunities for kids. So the chances that the funding will be available in the future are a little bit more consistent than if it were a grant, which is a good thing. So.
all good?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Hearing none. That is unanimously approved.
Item number 2 is a hiring of 2 special education paraprofessionals. These are paras that will work one-on-one with students that have transferred into the district. It is something we have to provide for the needs of those students. And it was approved unanimously by the committee because we have to do it.
Yeah.
And we want to do it if the kids want to be in school.
Yeah.
I will move to that, so we need a second.
I'll second.
I believe Mr. Shaw seconded it. Didn't you?
Oh, did he?
Oh,
Here, you can have it.
Yeah, well, I was on the committee.
you don't have to fight over it, guys. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously.
And the third item is the Personnel Policy Committee had a discussion about the superintendent search. I believe you all got the letter that I had from the meeting I was at, my concerns about getting started and getting going. And well, we could discuss that, but I will move. It came out of our committee 2-2. So I will move that we approve the motion made by school board member Trask that we contact WASB, Wisconsin Association of School Boards, relative to assisting the district in the search for superintendent. That was a motion that was 2-2 in committee. I will move that on, and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to contact WASB.
WASB. To speak to that, I've been involved in a search for a new director at CISA. And that's 11 school board members that come together. We represent 17. Some nights it is 17. The night we discussed this, there were only 11 there. But 2 things really hit me at that meeting. Number 1 was the timeline of starting in December. And we're now into January and haven't gotten going. That hit me that we're getting behind. Number 2 was the fact that every member of every board that was there didn't speak favorably about doing their own search. That it was something that, they just said, you don't understand everything that's going to come up. All the questions you're going to have to answer. Even background checks. It's more than just getting the legal background check, finding out from schools how the person was working there. One of the reasons WASB was one of the groups that presented at this meeting, but one of the things I liked about their proposal is everybody who applies, they will narrow it down based on the committees that we would put together to ask questions. And they narrow down how many candidates that are their top candidates, but they let you look at everybody who applied. So, if 60 people apply, you get all 60 applications if you want to read them. They will help you narrow that down to a number that's easier to interview in groups. But it did come down to, you still do the interviewing, they sit down with you, They go over the questioning. I just did a survey for what they're doing now, and they match you with the questions that you want to ask that person that you're comfortable doing. It was just so organized in the way that it could get done and the speed that it could get done. And my big concern is if we don't get going, we may not get the quality of the people that we want. I know Fond du Lac is now looking for a superintendent, and they're kind of the same kind of district we are size-wise, same part of the state. So my fear is we got to get going on this. And even though I appreciate the fact that we would like to do it our own, I think we need the professionals that have done this for other districts to help us out and push us along and get this done.
I share Mr. Anderson's concerns, and I agree that we need to get going. I might suggest a friendly amendment, just given where we're in the cycle, and without having any idea of where WASB's at and how backlogged they are. And I know they got that big convention coming up. My friendly amendment would be to just add the words "or another search firm" to the motion, just so it gives us some flexibility in pivoting if we get into it and they're like, "Oh, we can't get to it until like mid-February."
Yeah, no, good. I would have no problem. Yeah. There are, I did make a contact today with Mike Knowlton. He was sick. But he texted me different things to Google, so I started Googling, and just in the state of Wisconsin, there are 16 different agencies that would help in this now. How many are full? How many are booked? You know, we don't know that, but at least there are other options. So I think that's a good idea, Tony.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in favor of the motion too, and I'd like to point out that you can't be passive about this sort of thing. I mean, not just the process, but actually finding candidates and having an agency, WASB or another agency. They can actually they know what's on the market. They know who's out there. They know what we need or what we think we need at least, and they can get basically sell a candidate on the idea of applying for this position. So I think a much more active process is taking place if we do have an agency out there that has much longer arms than we have in finding and convincing candidates to apply. The other thing is that a week ago Friday, there was a notice that they had selected a new president for the college I went to, and I thought, it was on Zoom. I just was curious and checked in. And before they introduced the new president, they introduced the person who had chaired the search committee. And she went on eloquently about how important it was to have an agency work with them. Simply because of what Biff said, that so much came up that they had not anticipated and didn't know the answers to and didn't know what moves to make. And the agency, of course, that was their business. So they got them through all of that sort of stuff. And they got what they thought was a very successful outcome in the process. So I think the thing is that it'll cost us a little money, but I don't want to be penny wise on this thing. And I think it's maybe the most important decision that we have to make. So I'm in favor of the motion and the amendment to the motion too.
The amendment was taken as a friendly amendment, so it's already baked into the motion.
Okay. Yeah, I support what Tony suggested as well, because in light of the WASB convention is next week, you're going to have almost everybody from that organization there. If we have an opportunity to speak to one of those agents, that would be good. If not, so be it. But the other thing that's important to realize that after that convention, we have a week left in January. And if we're going to look at another search agency to have WASB and that other search or possibly another search tell us, board members, what they can offer, time is very, very important because now we're going to be into February. We don't even have an application process. We don't even know what an application looks like. That's what that search agent can do. They provide us with that. But now that we're sitting in the beginning of February, we don't call some special meetings to listen to the search agents as to what they can do for us and then make a decision. We're really into February because next week is going to be a bust. We're going to be out of here. The convention's there. They aren't going to have representatives to come to districts to give us their spiel. They're going to be there. So then we're into the following week. We want to at least hear from another, as Tony suggested, a couple of other people, agencies, to see what they're going to offer. And I think that's important. So I support the motion. We don't have time anymore. This isn't the middle of November. We don't have time. We've got to get going on this. And time is valuable.
The interesting thing in this, I don't take this the wrong way, but in this easier search for a CISA head, okay, and I say that because I feel that the superintendent of schools in an area like this is one of the most important governmental people that we hire. That night, we had 2 presentations and decided after listening to both presentations which company to take. And a week later, we got together and we were coming up with questions and a timeline and how this was going to happen. So it is possible to get going. Yeah, I think if we find we explore some of these other agencies, WASB may be there next week to talk to. But I think having a special meeting, having a night when some companies could come in and propose, we make that decision that night, we could get going. My hope would be before the end of January that we could get this going instead of February. And I said this at the other meeting, and I'll say it here, this has no reflection at all on our interim superintendent. We all think things are going well, he's doing a great job, but we have to let the community know that when we interviewed, if he gets the job, he came out on top. And if we interviewed people and there's somebody out there, that might happen. But Lee understands that we've talked but we have to let the community know. This is a very, very important position that we're trying to fill right.
I would just add to that, in my experience, I'm sure it's the same in any field. The best talents, they're on top of it, right? I mean, we should be proactive in that process. And, I wish we would have gotten started sooner, but here we are, and we have an opportunity to, to take action and, be more assertive in how we approach this. And I think we should do that because, each day that we don't act on this, we could be missing out on another good candidate. It's our fiduciary responsibility to the district and taxpayers and, staff and students to, do our best job in getting the best possible candidate.
My only concerns about this, as I mentioned back in November, that we should have done this in November, so. It wasn't done then, so now it's up to a vote today. So yeah, that's all I want to say about that. My last comment is to the chairman. Why doesn't this say action or discussion on the agenda? Just says.
You're asking me or the chairman of the committee?
Well, the chairman of the board, Max.
It came forward as minority action.
Yeah.
Minority report.
Okay.
Oh.
So it might not have had one, but.
I think it falls under the .A, right? It says action about that.
But it doesn't have anything on board book or on the agenda tonight, so that's,
Okay.
I don't want to talk about that too much. I just want that clarified for the next time, because I believe it's an actionable item.
Yeah, anything on the agenda should be.
I'm checking under here. We're, the way I read it.
Yeah.
.A says action.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
And those all kind of fall under.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Under
oh, yeah.
under 9A, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you're right, that's true.
Okay, good. Anything further, sir?
That's it.
Okay. Well, not a shock. We've talked about this in November, December, now January. I appreciate everybody's concerns, and certainly the board sets the direction. My concern is, as it has always been, how vital it is for the board to make this decision rather than the board accept somebody else's winnowing of candidates. I absolutely believe that if we get 45 candidates, 45 qualified candidates, people who meet the qualifications we have for this position, it is the board's job to look at all 45, decide who to do screening interviews with, decide who to do final in-person interviews with.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe that wholly. I do not believe in handing any part of this off to another group. That was discussed even way back in November at our executive committee meeting. We had this exact same discussion. Now, the way I think about these things is not going to change, but certainly the board is a consensus body. So the decision of the board as a body is what counts. Okay? So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, I will say nay. Oh, thank you. 2 nays. All right.
Can I ask a quick question? Just,
Sure, we have not moved on to something else.
my understanding is that we should have the ability to still review those resumes, right?
I'm not sure why you would hire a search firm and then actually do the search yourself. That's all I would say to that.
Yeah, it
Well,
seems like
I think they could add value by,
Oh, yeah.
doing a lot of the legwork for you if you give them what you want. And then if you want to, say, hey, here's our collective vision for what we want this candidate to look like. Please give us the top 6 or 8 or whatever we want to bring in. And then if you wanted to skim the other resumes on top of that and say, hey, I think this guy should be part of that, we could talk about it, right? But I don't think I guess what I'm suggesting is that we could probably all get what we want and save some time in the process for those of us that maybe don't want to spend, 50 hours in the interviews.
Couldn't agree more.
I think it's exactly the opposite of what you're saying is the reason why I voted nay and with Chris is because going with an agency is literally anti what you just said, because what happens is you do got to give them a collective goal, what you're looking, and then they do this work to set everything instead of just putting out the ad and the advertisements, whatever. We could probably use different companies for their advertisement, but the point is that's going to create another month of meetings to where we give them what we want. We talk about what we want. This is, and it adds all these other things in there instead of just give us some candidates, let us look. I think that's kind of what, trying to speed up the process by eliminating all that. And then if you are going to hire WASB, I do like the fact that they let us review all of their applications. But then if that's what they're going to do, what are they actually doing? Because that's what we want to do. That's what we're kind of saying to do is get the applications. I don't know. That's just seems like it's adding a lot more time putting them in. I understand.
We voted.
We voted, yeah.
So unless you were answering Tony's question, I would like to keep moving.
Yep, me too.
All right.
All right.
All right. So
Report of the Curriculum Instruction Committee. We have no action items at all, other just information that health, which is a requirement, a course in health, one for the middle school, 7 and 8, and one for 9th grade. These courses are being revised and enriched and kind of regenerated, I think. And so that's going to happen. There's no need to take a vote on it. So that's for information. If there's any question about that, we think we could ask Heidi or Katie or anybody else. But I think that's, I've looked at the standards, the state standards, and things like that. It's perfectly obvious that we have a stronger curriculum for the ninth grade than we do for the sixth grade in terms of content and of the material. Well, content is the material. So I don't know if there are any questions about that. No?
The only question I had was, I had a few concerns from parents about, is this going to take away more of the child's time to get
Yeah. Electives.
electives?
Yeah.
You know, and I know that there was a change a couple years ago that cut down on electives. And are we looking at that schedule to help kids end up in Spanish 1 before they take Spanish 2?
They're always looking at the middle
Yeah.
school schedule to figure out how we can create opportunities for students to take classes. So yes, that is.
Okay.
I met with a pretty significant stakeholder team, including Anna, Lainey from the high school, FIA teachers, health teachers, and reviewing the schedule at the middle school is something that will be a continued conversation this semester. And then with Lincoln having eight period opportunities, there are ample opportunities at the high school level for kids to continue to participate in lots of electives.
Thank you.
And you were referring to electives as opposed to required.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Taking away choice
Yeah,
by
extra.
having them require.
Foreign language, yeah.
Yeah, this is a requirement. Yeah, this is a requirement.
So just limiting choice then for students, which we want to continue to try to create.
We just hope the legislature doesn't keep coming up with mandatory mandatory courses more and more. But anyway, so any other questions on that? The second thing is that there's a lot happening out there this semester in terms of curriculum development. Middle school social studies, I know they've been working on it, and they're looking at, packages that help, make things consistent and that. And they'll be reporting to the board in February on what they've decided. You'll have a chance to talk about that and see the material. Middle school, high school, world languages, looking at changing, curriculum options and things like that. And they'll be reporting to us in March. High school, intro to literature. They have a committee, and they'll be reporting out in March. And I know high school social studies is doing quite a lot of work, and they'll be making their recommendations in April. So that's just to let you know what's happening out there. That's all I have.
Any questions for the chair? All right, then we will move on to items brought forward from the 11/26 special board meeting. I will turn this over to the finance chair, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. As your minutes, as the agenda read, this has come from the 11/26 board meeting. The first initial resolution authorization, as Mr. Abel called it, the GLOB, GOB is right? GOB, yeah, right. This is the authorization which is required, as Mr. Mishler indicated, the motion to send us into the bond, get us approved by that.
No, first one is just approve the borrowing.
The borrowing, thank you.
And then the other part is the election to do foreign buying bonds. So there's two slightly different things, that's why. So I apologize for the interruption.
No, that's no problem, I'm glad you did. So it has to be a motion made and seconded, approved by the board, signed by Mr. Abel and Mr. Trask as our president and clerk. So I'll read the motion to you. Be it resolved by the School Board of Manitowoc Public School District, Manitowoc County, or Wisconsin, that there shall be issued pursuant to Chapter 67 of the Wisconsin statutes, general obligation bond in the amount not to exceed $25 million for the public purpose of paying the costs of district-wide school facility improvement project consisting of capital maintenance, remodeling, building infrastructure, systems, security, and site improvements at district facilities, and acquisitions of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That is the motion. I need a second.
Okay, so that, you move that.
I move that.
Okay, so we have a motion. May I ask one clarifying thing before we look for the second, just so that we can make sure we get this right? Because I notice it says a district-wide school facility improvement project. Should it be projects? Does it need to be plural?
They consider it all one project.
Okay, they consider the totality of all the work as
You're
one
right
project.
in that.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure
Right either way, but.
that if we're going to
technically
fix it, we do it before
It's
the.
one big project.
So
Okay,
should
gotcha.
facilities be plural? It's facility, you said.
Well, yeah, but each facility is.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, okay,
Whatever.
we're good. So we're looking for a second. We don't have, will you?
I'll second that.
Okay. I would have, you did. Did you want to speak to your second?
I just have a question. This is for everything on the list that we got.
Yeah.
Will we be informed if something changes from that list?
We'll go through the committee to make any changes to the list. But it all has to match this description.
Right.
By law.
Right, okay.
Any other? Mr. Flestel.
Was there a reason we left out the language on the not impacting the tax levy?
I'm sorry, what?
We talked about the impact on the tax levy.
Right, this is not, there is not, in either one of these resolutions, it has nothing to do with the tax. That's an internal thing that we have to do.
Correct.
So
I think we
that's-
kind of, didn't we ask for the language to be in?
That was the motion to pass to go in favor of this, that it would not impact.
That it would not impact. You can't, I don't believe, am I correct to say that that is not possible to put on a resolution?
Because we don't know what it is.
Correct. So what you have is our commitment that there will be a neutral impact on this borrowing and what will be proposed in a
But
budget.
there's no guarantee though, because we can't say that, right?
Well,
I just want to be real
There's a
about
guarantee
this.
because
There
this
is,
body,
yeah.
this body would be the one to approve the budget, which has the levy in it. So you are able to essentially, as a body, make that decision. But what we're saying is we're going to make sure that in our preparation work on the budget, that it will be a neutral thing.
And that will come in when, is that October or something?
Preliminary budget.
Preliminary,
It has to be approved by October, doesn't it?
June, preliminary. So it's at, before we get to that, we'll be talking about it, because it's gotta be a tit for a tat. I always say, if you're gonna, we're gonna have some interest expense, and we need to cover that, through some other things, which means we gotta cut some other places, things like that.
Yeah. I would just like to reiterate, as part of the messaging to the community, when we're going out there, we need to make it very clear that the impact on the tax levy is not gonna be anything, right? So just so they understand.
That's correct.
So I think that's gonna go a long way towards getting the broad support that.
Right, there will be a cost, however, it's gonna be offset by some, reduction.
We'll explain that to them right away.
Yeah.
We have, if the board votes affirmatively, families in the district will receive a letter explaining this, as well as a press release that will be sent out tomorrow morning. That includes that information.
Anyone else? Okay, I just want to make 2 points here. One is, this does require a roll call vote because it is a resolution. Rare enough thing for a school board to do. And the second is, although the structure of the plan was not something that I was fond of and voted against it, it prevailed with the board. And as, I don't want to sound like, a broken record here, but we're a consensus model of government. And when the board approved that we will borrow the 25 million, then it is my job to make sure that the resolution and the following guideline for the referendum are legally appropriate and accurate. And they are, which is why I will be voting in support.
I just want to make a statement that in June, when our preliminary comes up, I won't be here. And in October, I believe it's October when it needs to be finalized, I won't be here as well either. And when we started looking for money and things like that, we came up with several different ways of saving money, and we've yet to act on any of them. And I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I have no way. I know how government works. What they're going to do is in October, June, October, whatever, heck, later on in the year, we're going to have other expenses and things like that that they're going to need to raise the levy about, and that'll cover some portion or not, or, you know, maybe it won't show it on paper that we're doing it. I just don't like the whole thing. We haven't really acted on anything as far as saving any of that money with this building, with, you know, consolidating, whatever we're going to do. We haven't done anything. The only thing we're doing is going for this more money, and I will not be here to make sure that it's not, you know, that it doesn't affect our tax levy. And if it's not in writing, I don't know. I just, that's kind of why I won't. I'll be a nay on this real quick.
I'm sorry, could I get Mr. Phipps first?
Yep, so what I'd like to say about this is that for the past 3 years, 2.5 years I've been on the board. And as Mr. Spalding said, we've been trying to use common sense to solve problems, to save money in the district, yet still create high quality services for our students. And I do believe the district needs many, many improvements to our facilities, and we are in dire need of it for a very long time. Well before I got on the board, that we've needed more money for improvements. So in the last 2.5 years, we've gave many different solutions of trying to save the district and the taxpayers money by consolidation because of our enrollment going down. We've got lots of opinions. We've made suggestions, but like Mr. Spalding said, no action has been done to actually lower our budget long term. So by us just continuing to ask for more money from you taxpayers and then not giving action of what we're going to do with it, I unfortunately will not be supporting this as well, just because there is no meat, there is no actual tangible way to hold the members of this board or the future boards or the district administrator accountable to save that money or spend it accordingly, instead of just trying to continue to meet the needs of the facilities that are already existing. I believe that we need to have some sort of consolidation to save the taxpayers of this community money. So I will not be supporting this as well because of that exact reason. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is this directed to this because Mr. Moss?
Yeah, I just, if I may, just interject. A couple things in regards to, you know, that we haven't done anything. You got to remember, Mr. Mishler just shared the budget process with you. The budget process to fix the issues that we saw in the last budget has to be addressed in the new budget. All right. I specifically sent this board a report outlining the steps that we're going to take to look at our staffing ratios that we do believe need to be put in check, that will yield the operational savings that we're talking about here. In addition to that, there are several other things that we're doing within this process to ensure, again, that these tax increases, remember why they were caused. The tax increases in the last 2 years were caused because the district had debt service that went off the books in 2022. 2021. In 2022, because they went off, and if we were being proactive at that time, what we would have done is we would have gone and borrowed at that time because your levy would have stayed the same. Instead, it went off the books, your levy crashed, 40% reduction in 1 year, which we don't remember because it's not this year or the year before, as Mr. Bell pointed out earlier. But we then saw the subsequent increase of 30% and then 15%, depending on your home's value. My point is, we haven't done it because we haven't had a new budget to propose to do it. But what we've been telling you is that that is what we are going to do. There's no qualms about it. We have to do that. And so that is the promise, okay? So this will get done. This will remain stable. And I just need to point that out because you're right. We haven't made the changes yet, but we haven't had a new budget cycle to make the changes. And we're going to do that because our facilities, frankly, need the critical maintenance here.
Is this back to that?
Yeah, it's back
Okay,
to that.
and then thank you for your patience.
With all due respect, Mr. Interim Superintendent, I believe you're sincere and I do believe to trust you, and I do trust you. And that's why I would vote tonight to make you the official superintendent of this district, but you are the interim superintendent. And if it may be a pleasure to the board that you might not be the superintendent in the future. So thank you for your statement. And I do support you 100%, but that might not be what actually happens.
I just wanted to point out that when we did that facilities study a while back, I believe we identified what was 48 million in critical maintenance needs. So just so the public's aware, like obviously 25 million we're asking to borrow is a lot, but really we've identified 48 million in need. So this is really trimming it down to the bone as far as what we need for our critical maintenance. And personally, I just wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I knew something happened in a building and a kid got hurt. And that's really where we're at with a lot of our buildings, unfortunately. I think the interim superintendent's doing a good job of putting together a long-term plan to address that. But, while we get to that point where it's more sustainable, we have to take some action now to get this thing back in working order. So for that reason, I will be voting to support this.
Yes.
No, I just like to shadow what Matthew said. I agree, and I would support Lee as well. I've said it publicly before. But, you talked about that crash, and then before the 30%, what did they do? They took my modest $85,000 home, maybe it's $100,000 at most, and somehow they said it's worth well over $200,000 before they increased it 30%. So the reason why I'm against it is because of what he said, is I can't hold anybody accountable unless I see it in writing, something that we all agreed on. I can't, I'll vote for it. Give me something in writing that shows me that we are going to make sure this doesn't affect any type of a tax levy, or it's not going to be included in anything like that. I understand as a board, we make that decision. I will not be here.
So just so you know, Mr. Spalding, it is in writing because your original motion that you passed at that special meeting indicated direction to your administrative team that this shall have no impact on the levy. That is direction from this board to directing the administrative team. Doesn't matter who's sitting in this chair, this board directed it. So therefore, it is in writing, and it is something that we're going to follow up and follow through on.
And to interject, thank you. That's why we passed it 6-1 because of that language. When we passed to even do this resolution, this is just the formal language. As Mr. Tennis said, the commitment of this board to equalize that was passed in order for us to even get to this point. So we've already had this discussion. We've already made the promises. We will honor those promises, as Mr. Tennis said, regardless of who sits there, because it's in the minutes of our board. That's how we passed this motion 6-1. It's there. This is just the formal language to put it on the ballot so that Ken can go ahead and make the appropriate paperwork to file.
I totally agree with you. I just know that what I say now can be overridden later. But if you were to put it on the ballot, if you put that on the ballot, I understand maybe you can't. Maybe there's laws you can't or whatever, but you make a promise in writing, everybody knows they voted on it out in the public, well, you're going to be held accountable to it. Yeah. Nobody's going to hold you accountable to what I say now once I'm gone.
No, but it's in our minutes.
It is.
It's there.
Which means garbage. I mean, the second a majority votes, we can override that anytime.
Well, sure.
But once it's, I I don't know, I just want some sort of finality. That's the only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying on this right now. I like it, I'm for it, I understand it's bare bones, we need more. I also want some sort of protection for the future. But either way, it's the way it looks, it'll go anyway, so let's go, I'm gonna go on record with the vote anyway.
It'll be in the news report, right?
Yeah, it'll explain that.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, I have to do a roll call. Totally apologize. Right after I said that, too.
Christopher Abel.
Aye.
Biff Hansen.
Aye.
Matthew Phipps.
Nay.
Keith Shaw.
Aye.
Matthew Spalding.
Nay.
Carrie Trask.
Yes.
Tony Bostelica.
Aye.
So that carries 5-2.
Okay.
On to your second one, sir.
The second motion will read as follows. So I'll say, I make a motion to approve a resolution for a referendum, election on the question of the approval of an initial resolution authorizing a general obligation bond in the amount not to exceed $25 million as presented in Board Book.
So as presented in board book covers the next page.
and a half.
Good plan.
I thought he was gonna read the whole thing, folks. I was really
All
looking
have that
forward to that.
resolution.
Okay. All right. Any discussions? Oh, sorry, we do need a second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir. Do you want to speak to your second? Okay. I'm assuming discussions are pretty similar, so I'm going to go straight to the vote unless somebody has something I really want to say. All right, then.
How is this different than what we just voted on?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's got to be included, it's legally required.
There's no way we could vote against it.
Second one is that it's going to the taxpayers as a election, so as an election. The first one's a board move. The next one is we're going to the public for a referendum, an election.
Then put it on the ballot.
So put it on the ballot. So, I'm sorry.
I just have a question. We voted to go 5-2 to do this. Say this went unanimously. Let's not do this portion.
We have to have the authority.
I just have a question. The reason why we're voting on this, I think that's why he meant, I mean, isn't this included? Because this has to happen now. You vote all we want, not, but we voted to go for the referendum, so putting it on a ballot is part of it, I would think, anyway, but we approve separately.
I would agree with you, but legally, we're required to do the two separate actions. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, but then again, government makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Shruggy, shruggy.
Yeah, I got you.
Roll call vote, please.
Christopher Abel.
Aye.
Biff Hansen.
Aye.
Matthew Phipps.
Nay.
Keith Shaw.
Aye.
Matthew Spalding.
Nay.
Carrie Trask.
Yes.
Tony Bostelica.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes and will be then filed with, I believe it's the county clerk. All the appropriate ballots.
Filed with county clerk, that ballot that you saw.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next is remarks from board president. I really don't have remarks, and I'm really not trying to go back down a rabbit hole, but I'm trying to get some clarification here. So please hear my question and help me with the answer. The search assistance as moved was to use WASB, and if they are not readily available, then look at alternates. However, the discussion became having several come in and present to the board. I need direction. I need direction from you as to if you want, and I can do this just by a show of hands, if you want me to take the action as moved, check with WASB first, and if they're going to be readily available, we don't need to check with anybody else, because that's what the motion was, or if you want to see multiples.
No, I think that's what the motion was, in my opinion.
Follow the motion?
I'm good with, yeah, if Wasby's available, I'm good with that.
Follow the motion. Okay.
I follow the motion, but to add to that, should we have the president of the personnel committee, who's also had contact with these people, make that contact and work through you as to setting up the dates, times? I'll make that motion that the president of personnel.
I'm comfortable to do it either way. I've been in touch with them too. I got in touch with them back in November, so but I'll work with him and we'll get that set up.
Okay, that'll be my motion.
If he wants to be included, I understand that, but I'd leave that to our president.
Okay.
I will give you the card that the woman in this area from Wasby who's doing the other search would be able to give you information right away.
Okay, great. Okay, that's really all I needed to know. Future meeting dates, we have a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting coming in just 2 days. We have a special board meeting on January 28th. And there are a few deadlines coming.
You have an excessive board meeting.
What was the question, or that comment?
We have a Facilities and Finance Committee meeting in just 2 days.
Yeah.
And then we have special board meeting coming up January 28th. And don't
29th.
forget the other deadlines that are coming up for things to sign up for, like the
chamber thing.
The chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, if I could just suggest that, I know we just approved it tonight, but I'd like to have a contract that we can approve for that meeting on the 28th, and I'd even be willing to meet earlier if we had to get it going.
If we can get somebody in here before the 28th, we're certainly going to do that.
Great. Let's.
Yeah.
I would please.
I'm open to having more meetings, just let us know.
All right, next we have to go into closed session. So the Board of Education may vote to convene in closed session. Before I do that, I want to warn the public, we do not anticipate any action coming out of closed session, so I would not wait outside where it's closed. The Board of Education may vote to convene in closed session for the purpose of considering the following matter. The employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. This meeting is authorized pursuant to section 1985 1C of the Wisconsin statutes. And the specific thing that we will be addressing is 2026-27 administrator contract extensions. I so moved. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Yeah.
Christopher Abel.
Aye.
Duke Hanson.
Aye.
Matthew Phipps.
Aye.
Keith Shaw. Matthew Spalding. Gary Trask.
All right.
Tony Bustalka.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourning to close. Give everybody a few moments to go, and then we will get going.
Yeah, this will be very short.
So you're just going to stay right in here.